So in order just to make sure that I have your viewpoint clear on this, with regard to the COVID stuff, my understanding is that you're saying it's basically just similar to a cold or the flu, or not even as dangerous?
Not even the flu. The
Not even.
It's another cold virus.
Okay. So
this one here does have this cytokine storm where in a small number of people it causes some bad lung damage.
Yeah.
Why is that? Some people are theorizing that it seems to be more likely in people who got the last flu vaccine. And then they get into, you know, the conspiracy of, you know, how much of this did they plan? I don't think they know enough to be able to plan it that well.
Yeah.
I think if they could plan this better, it would have been more contagious and more lethal. And they just are you know, they thought that coronavirus was a good family of cold viruses to, you know, manipulate a little bit and see if they could tweak it. They tried to get this with MERS. You know, they had the estimates that were huge, and we know that MERS came out around the time that they were planning on having the original one.
Right.
Back, you know, they were originally trying to get this thing going like 2012 or so, you know, 2014 in that ballpark. And then we had SARS-1. They didn't call it SARS-1 at the time, but now there's SARS-2. And each time they tried to have a run at this, and they had people making estimates of millions of people in the world are going to die from this. But now they've made the same stupid projections. You know, how many, it's like Rand Paul said when he was drilling Fauci in the Senate hearing, was, you know, he was nice enough to say, I have all the respect in the world for you. I wouldn't have even said that. But so he was nice enough about it. But he said, you guys have been wrong time after time after time. Like, how is anyone supposed to believe you? I saw one person, they posted that, you know, how much it changes. It's like the tide. Twice a day they're changing their opinion. Right. You know, are you supposed to wear a mask or not? You know, it depends. Is it the WHO? Is it the CDC? And what day is it? Right. And who benefits from it? Well, my thing is nobody. Nobody should be wearing a mask.
Are there dangers with wearing a mask?
Absolutely.
Okay, can you...
Well, there's the guy who was, he was running with a mask on. How stupid is that? Well, he had to generate higher pressures to breathe running through a mask. So he popped a lung and had a pneumothorax, which, you know, he was able, I don't think he died from it, they just re-expanded his lung, but, you know, some people, if they lose half their lung function, it could hurt them or kill them right there.
I've heard about people getting pleurisy because they've had masks on.
They're getting lung irritants because, you know, those masks, how well are those things made? You know, these things cost like a nickel to buy or to make. How well are they made? How much of that stuff are you inhaling, right? The other thing is nobody's wearing them correctly. Nobody, I mean, first of all, they have them down below their nose. What's the point, right? You're still getting droplets in your eye. Yeah. Where do your tears go? Straight into your nose. And the other thing is this whole thing about, is it a droplet or is it an aerosol? You know, because the virus itself is 0.1 microns, really, really tiny. And that goes through a mask that even in N95, the pores are like designed for 0.3 microns. So it's smaller than that.
So the pores are too large.
Right, and it does stop the bigger aerosol and droplets. What's the significance? We're talking about a lot bigger than the virus, 5 microns. So if we have a big ugly sneeze or cough or even talking in saliva maybe, we don't know about the saliva, but they hypothesize, then maybe it'll hitch a ride on that. And maybe as it's traveling before, you know, it's bigger than 5 microns, heavy enough that it's going to fall to the ground eventually. 6 feet? No, even Fauci says that's no magic number. But it'll travel a distance. Maybe I could shoot a sneeze 30 feet, but hopefully I'm not going to aim it at someone. But at 5 microns, it's going to find its way to the ground. And if it's less than 5 microns, it could float around, maybe for hours. If I send out a droplet, and before it drops, maybe enough water evaporates off of it, now it's an aerosol, it's light enough, maybe it'll float for a few hours. If I have one of those surgical masks or a drape of some sort, and air is able to entrail around it, because it's just less force to get around no obstruction than going through the obstruction, then aerosols are going in all day long. So that's of no benefit for an aerosol. It's of no benefit for just a free-floating virus. But maybe it stops, you know what a cloth mask stops? Your finger. The pores are big enough to stop your finger. Now a mask, on the other hand, people adjust those all the time. Right. And maybe they even adjust the cloth one too. That's of no value. Wearing gloves all day long or for hours on end, where is the value in that? What is the difference between me having gloves and leaving them on and my hands. What is the difference? Why am I disinfecting my home? Do you think you're not going to expose to something in your home?
Yeah.
The other thing is they said, well, let's shut the trains down in the subway system in New York City from 1 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the morning and disinfect the whole trains. I'm like, how about if you just stop people from doing number 2 in the subway?
Yeah.
But the other part about that is, how long does something live on a fomite, on an inert object? You know, and the studies show it doesn't live that long anyway.
Yeah.
So whatever was there at 1 in the morning was going to be dead for the rush hour the next morning, if there is a rush hour anymore. It was going to be dead anyway in the morning.
Yeah.
So by shutting down the train from 1 to 5, you didn't accomplish a whole heck of a lot. You just shut down the city that never sleeps.
Yeah. So how do you explain in the areas in which there are larger numbers of deaths that are COVID related?
If you look at the map of the United States,
yes,
you'll see that red, they did it in third, red, yellow, green, kind of like my thing.
Yeah.
So a third of them were red, and that was just like the New York metropolitan area.
Right.
Very small geographic area,
Right,
and like
right.
maybe they took like Chicago and looked like maybe Detroit. But very, very tiny area of the country being red. Then they had yellow, was pretty much just kind of surrounding that, still a pretty small area. And then the whole green of the rest of the country.
United States, yeah, I know.
How do you explain that besides that they're lying? Why are they lying? Because they get more money. From who? From Medicare and other insurers.
Yeah.
How much more do they get? Well, it's really hard to explain Medicare funding, but basically, round numbers, we're looking at $5,000 if you come in for an uncomplicated pneumonia. Add COVID onto that, now you're saying, oh, it's systemic, it's SARS-2, so it's systemic acute respiratory distress syndrome. Now we got a complication. Now we're looking at $13,000.
So you're saying the reporting is partially financially motivated?
Absolutely. And then you intubate the patient, you get $35,000. So you're rushing to intubate them. And by the way, if you keep them on for more than 4 days, 96 hours, then you go up to like 80,000, I think it is.
Wow.
So a lot of people are dying after 4 days. I think the average is like 7 days.
Should we keep them alive for one more day?
Yeah, just you can't shut this off for another hour. We got to get to 97, man. Right. So anyway, that is that's being made up. We know that homicides are being called COVID deaths.
Right.
We know that. Oh, and the other thing, statistically, this doesn't make any sense. New York City has more deaths, just New York City, not the state, than 45 entire states combined.
Yes.
That's lying.
Yeah.
And the United States, including New York City, has more deaths than 207 of 212 territories and countries. Mm-hmm. We're lying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So one final question here, and then I'll let you go after this. Thank you for your time, by the way. There was a lot of controversy at the beginning how the Wuhan virus, Chinese virus, whatever you want to call it, originated, where it came from. Was it man-made, was whatever? Do you have any thoughts on that? Because there's been a lot of very interesting theories about that.
Sure.
Some have been, I'll just let you speak.
Well, what they said was that the lab was within sight of that wet market that they talked about.
Right.
Where the boyfriend of a worker from the market, initially they think was the super spreader or patient zero. So we have the access to the meat market and to the lab. Is it man-made or is it natural? Well, they don't make man-made from scratch, right? They think that it has a fingerprint of a strain that was in other mammals like bats and possibly some other mammals that maybe they mixed together. I think the other one might have been a snake, which both were available at the wet market and both were available there. And we know that China donates like $4 billion to U.S. universities, including the #1 university it gives to is Harvard. And we know that we had a biochemist or some PhD at Harvard who was caught and arrested with vials of biological material that he was on his way from Harvard to Wuhan. They stopped him, but the thing is, there is that connection. So if I had to guess, I would say that China is in a position where they want respect in the world, and they wanted to say, we do science, right? And so they said, how can we prove that we can do science too? And they said, let's just do this genetic research where we manipulate. You know, honestly, I don't see the point of why why biological warfare is a thing. You know
Yeah.
it's going to come back on your shore. It's just a
Yeah.
stupid thing that all countries should agree to stop. And there should just be, if there's going to be a UN, this is where the UN should say something to the effect of, if you're doing this kind of research, your country's just going to be annihilated, or your labs are going to be annihilated, or your leaders are going to be annihilated.
So
if we could have a UN do something good, we should get rid of that kind of biological research. It's not going to be any good.
Yeah. One of the things that I heard was that because of that that lab over there in Wuhan and the meat market nearby, that they were doing some experiments, or some of the animals from within the lab were actually being sold.
Sure. Why are you going to lose that money?
Right. Exactly. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. But
I mean, just look at the simplest answers.
Yeah.
Like Occam's razor. It's not hard to imagine.
Yeah.
I don't know that, but sure. Why? It's like when if you look in the Old Testament, when they said we're going to have a thing we're going to sacrifice to God. What do you think they did with the pig afterwards, or the goat afterwards? They ate it.
Yeah.
It was a barbecue.
So, well, anyway, I want to just thank you again for all of your time here.
Sure.
And any final words you want to add?
Yes. None of this is medically justified or scientifically justified.
None of what's going on
the
is a response. Yes. Okay.
No restrictions. Open everything. None of it ever should have been. And take the opportunity to see who of your friends and family is a green, yellow, or red. Try and convince a yellow. Try not to argue too much with a red. It's just not worth it. And try to find out which of your politicians sold you down the river, which of them are tiny tyrants, and get them out of office. And who are the globalists? Who are the people that are actually that blacked out on top, the evil 0.01%?
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate talking with you once again. Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.